Welcome everyone to today's Fireside Chat with Redpanda and LiveRamp on driving real-time personalization and cutting costs with streaming data solutions. My name is Corey Knowles. I'm the Managing Editor of IT at Technology Advice, and I'll be your moderator today. We're excited to be joined by Kannan Dorairaj and Mike Boyarski. Kannan is Chief Architect at LiveRamp, and Mike is Chief Marketing Officer at Redpanda. Just a quick note, we will have a Q&A session after the initial chat. So as we're going along, if you have thoughts, you have questions, please drop them in the Q&A panel you see there, so we have them ready to go when we get there and can cycle through real quickly. Now, please join me in welcoming Kannan and Mike.
Hey, thanks, Corey. Great to be here. Hi, everyone. This is Mike Boyarski. I'm CMO of Redpanda. I'm happy to have Kannan with us today to talk about driving real-time personalization while cutting costs with streaming data solutions. A little bit of housekeeping. This is a recorded session, so if you're looking for today's session, we will provide that to you in a subsequent email. With that, I'll get into some introductions and get us into setting the stage for today's discussion. So LiveRamp enables the world's top brands, agencies, and publishers to connect, control, and activate data to transform their customers' experiences. And they do this through the power of data. And so with that, there's a lot of exciting capabilities that Kannan's going to be sharing with you all in terms of the types of data that they're processing, the scale that they're operating with. In many ways, we'll talk about the journey that the team has gone through in becoming really a modern data enterprise. So with that, I would love to kind of get you started, Kannan, by giving you an opportunity to explain some of the scale and some of the challenges that you faced before adopting this really leading-edge event-driven architecture. And so I'm going to let you all walk through a little bit about what is LiveRamp, what is it that you all do, and your role at the organization.
Thank you, Mike. Hey, I'm Kannan. I'm the Chief Architect. I lead Architecture Leadership Group at LiveRamp. And I've been with LiveRamp for like 4+ years right now. So LiveRamp, basically we are a data collaboration platform. So we let our customers collaborate through our ecosystem. So in a high level, right, actually we provide primary key for the customer touchpoint data. For all the customer touchpoint data our customer has, we provide a primary key so that they can join the data and make sense of the data, and provide foreign key in a way to go and connect with the partners and publishers and different ecosystems so that they can communicate and make sense of the data with collaborating with different sources. So in a high level, in the database language, I can say it's like a primary key and foreign key. We provide that. So initially, LiveRamp started with assisting bigger like Fortune top 10 retailers and publishers and brands to collaborate. So we enable them to collaborate. That's where we started. And then later we started saying, hey, you know what, we'll assist you to collaborate as well. So I'll not only enable you, we take your data and process it, provide the identity, and pseudonymize the data so that it can be used for collaboration. And then we said, okay, you know what, we'll assist you to collaborate. And now we recently acquired a company, Habu, and we are saying now, you know what, we'll own the whole narrative now, from top to bottom. We'll help you collaborate. We'll provide an interface for you to collaborate. So we are holding now we are owning the whole narrative now, end to end, for a collaboration platform. So that is LiveRamp, right? In a high level. So the ecosystem, yes, we've been here in business for a while, and we've been dealing with top Fortune 10, 20 retailers and brands. So the data is not small, it's huge. Our ecosystem is like around 100 petabytes of data. And we are dealing with an ecosystem of like 90,000 core processors, and we are dealing with a few hundred terabytes of data coming in and publishing around 400 to 500 terabytes of data out every day, right? So that's such a big ecosystem is what we got. And our problem was actually, right, hey, we've been dealing with aggregate data so far in our business, in our previous businesses, right? The aggregate data itself is like 100 petabyte. Now, recently we started acting on event data. How do we use the event data? How do we use the event data for collaborations and measurement use cases and end-to-end ad tech, use cases, end-to-end use cases, right? So when we started started with event data, our data is going to exponentially grow, right? The growth of the data is huge, so we've been growing year by year. Now we are exponentially taking off from even aggregate data to event data. So, and then again, from batch processing to stream processing, or real-time, almost close to real-time processing. So we have been doing batch processing. We have been batch processing using big file-based approach. Now we are moving towards how do we make it close to real-time. So that was the problem statement. And then as you see, our ecosystem is huge. Our cloud presence is huge. How do we make it economical? So those are the two challenges we started addressing, and that's when we started working with Redpanda, and yeah, that's about it.
Fantastic. So maybe let's rewind the clock a little bit and talk through where things were prior to your current state. Clearly, the team is able to scale their operations with new technology, but that probably wasn't the case a handful of years ago. So it would be nice to give a little picture as to like the state of your operations. It sounds like we're doing a lot of batch processing of data. And so maybe give us just a quick snapshot as to like the prior to your event-driven world. What was the world of LiveRamp and how you managed your data then?
Yeah, thank you. LiveRamp has been an innovative company all along, right? Even like 10 years back, when they started with this, and when they started, being the name for the collaboration or name for the identity, and they've been leading player in the ad space for identity for more than a decade, right? That means the technology was awesome. They've been, created one of the first, proto-buffer-based, thrift-based file storage and thrift-based, file processing. 10 years back, actually, right? So that was more innovative than to that time. And that time we had everything in a data center, and we got the data from customers. We processed that, and we delivered it to different publishers and different, activated that data to different endpoints from there. So that was going on for decades, right? And then when the cloud got through in 2019, I think, before my time, so we moved that to cloud. We are GCP, primary GCP cloud, and we moved everything to GCP. Like, when we moved, at that time it was like a lift and shift, right? We lifted and shifted from whatever we are doing in the data center to GCP, and we started doing the same thing, bring the files in, process it, and deliver it, and effectively and efficiently. Because the data processing is huge, and moving to cloud itself is a big task, right? We moved. Now our business cases evolved slowly, and also the cloud features and cloud things evolve. So now we thought, okay, how do we fully utilize the cloud, right, to the maximum? We are just moved a data center, whatever happening in the data center to the cloud is not fully utilizing the cloud part, right? So now we started thinking, how do we utilize the cloud to the fullest, and how do we use the cloud's data warehouses, cloud's functionalities? How do we use it to the fullest to get to the next level? So that is when we started thinking re-architecture, right? So there two things, right? One was one part of the business was real-time data. We're already dealing with real-time data. The pixels that's served by websites and web clients from our different partners and different customers has to come to us. That will be like a pixel serving that has got a millisecond response time. We can't take time because the pixels are placed in customer's website. Huge, for example, think about a huge retailer's website. If my pixel loads more than a few milliseconds, that's not acceptable. So the real time and the fast is a huge deal in one part of it. The another part is the data has been sent to us. We process the data batch by batch, and there the batch process is okay. Some of the use cases it can take okay to do it in batch process. Some of them there also it has to be more real time. So that's what the new thing started evolving our business cases. And then the real-time process, we've been using a legacy solution to solve the streaming part. That's when we said, okay, I was parallelly looking at both problems. How do I get a better storage, better data warehouse to handle my data better? Right? That's where I evaluated different databases. And then at the same time, I was evaluating for how do I get the real-time data going, and how can it be faster? How can we make it better? And that's when we looked at Kafka as a protocol. And we said, okay, you know what, Kafka may be a good protocol. That may be the best thing to do. Okay, how do we get there kind of thing? We were researching, and we were talking to different vendors, and we were evaluating what will be the best way to get that streaming solution going. Because the data is like a few hundred terabytes a day per second kind of thing. And, the load is faster, and also the response time has to be very, very, very efficient, right? So we've been looking for a best solution there. We are evaluating. At the time, I was looking at the databases. That's when I was evaluating a database called ScyllaDB, right? And their architecture was really, really good because they have been using a C-star architecture, and where thread per core and all sort of really good architecture, disruptive technology. Because as LiveRamp is an innovative company, we are having one chance for us to re-architect for the next decade or so. We want to find the right technology. One of the things I was seeking or looking out for, disruptive technologies. I don't want an incremental technology, right? Something that incremental from what it was before, that may not be a great bet for me for the next decade, right? So I was searching for where it's a very, very disruptive technology. And I saw that was developed by the same guys who wrote Hypervisor, wrote the C-star architecture and the framework, and I've evaluated it. It looked disruptive. Okay, so I thought, okay, God, this is really good. Where are we going with it? That kind of thing. That's when I was digging that, I found Redpanda as one of the products that's using C-star architecture, and that architecture. So that's when I started looking at Redpanda. At the time, like a few years back, they're very young, very fresh, and I talked to Alex, and we started evaluating Redpanda. That's how we started there, actually.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you for taking us through that. I'm curious, when you started this, you recognized that this real-time data pipeline was really important, and the latency sensitivity of that was becoming more and more important. How did you approach from the business side of things, how far did you want to take the real-time processing across the application? Did you think of it in a very broad sense and try to apply real-time to as much of the data platform as possible? Did you have to take this in steps? Did you have to go maybe connector by connector basis to sort of go into this venue, if you will, of event-driven architecture? I'm just curious, because a lot of customers that we talk to that are early in their journey of streaming and streaming architectures, they have to approach this with a plan. And I'm just curious if that was something that your team had to approach streaming as a first-class data process for your platform. Was it something in the corner, or was it something very foundational to your architecture?
So yes, actually, so that's a very good question, actually, right? So again, and I'm sorry, I'm talking all of a little bit stories, because there's a lot of stories in a way, right? A lot of things happen around it. So so basically, right, the streaming, initially when we looked at it, we thought it is a small one use case, that one pixel serving use case where the data gets pixels out, where it taught real time. And we thought, that is the use case we want to go with. That's where we evaluated and worked with, Redpanda, right? And we evaluated multiple solutions, and because I'm going to, propose this for our next decade, right? So I want to make sure that I'm proposing the right things, and we are doing the enough tests, right? I've drawn a load explorer called Malaria and created tons of load to test Redpanda, and I've evaluated it in a bigger way. Ran few billion records per second kind of load out of a Malaria system, network system, and then loaded that and tested that. And I worked with Alex very closely. He is a super technical guy and amazing. We synced really well, actually, right? So that way we were able to work together. And also cost factor also mattered, right? During that evaluation, I was able to communicate to Alex, saying that, Alex, the retention is going to stay in my disks, okay? We are talking about terabytes of data, and it's not a good thing for me to hold it in the disk, and that will be the most expensive part of the whole ecosystem. Can we work on a shadow indexing where we move that data to an object store? Can it be economical? right? So the same time we founded another database, single store, which was using object store as their primary storage. And with ANSI SQL support, we went with that database for that solution as well, right? But it came to same thing with Alex. Hey, can you share an index to object store, right? And can we work together? So we worked on it, and he was able to deliver it so fast, so quick, because he was also thinking about it already, right? So when that happened, the solution became more economical. Okay, and I started looking at it, saying, "Oh God, now it doesn't have to be high real-time use cases only, right? Because cost factor too, right? For high real-time use case, I'm ready to spend some money, put some Kafka, Redpanda ecosystem and run it. But when it became supporting object store, I started looking at other solutions as well. Can I be using it as a queue solution, right? And then, whereas as I said earlier, I don't know if I clearly explained. So we get around, for example, if we say 50 terabytes of data, it comes into us, we deliver 360 or 350 terabytes of data. Because we deliver to different, we expand the data and we deliver it to different destinations. So the out is more. Okay. So then we found a use case to use it in the out also, right? OPI, our OPI side of also. There, where we used it for queuing and streaming out. Okay, streaming in and streaming out. So that's how we started expanding use cases, right? And then we started working with Alex again. Another bigger thing is our privacy is important for us. We can't host this in a cloud offering kind of thing. We can't go on, it has to be in our VPC, right? That's when Redpanda was flexible enough to bring a solution for us and bring your own cloud. They're one of the early ones to come up with a bring your own cloud option for Redpanda, and then they provided that as an option for us. So we could deploy it in our VPC, and we were able to manage that whole data because we are dealing with sometimes with PII and very sensitive data. We don't want that to be, we want that has to be in our VPC so that for all contractual and other reasons, right? So we kept it in there and we processed it. So that is how it evolved from one use case to another use case and stuff, right? So at the same time, our collaboration use case and the collaboration business plan also evolved. Saying, hey, we are enabling customers to collaborate. To hey, we are going to give you everything to collaborate. That means when somebody is coming and collaborating, and they want the data available right away to go and act on it, right? So we introduced that's our personas changed. Our user personas changed. Before it was like a marketing persona who puts the file in, they wait for a few days or a day to come in to get it uploaded in the campaign, they can go and run the campaign. Whereas our persona changed from that marketing person to data scientist and data guys who wants to collaborate and create a segment and run the segment for the next actions. So those personas, they don't want to wait. They want to put the data and they want to see the data directly because they're waiting on the next step to do. They can't queue it. They can't wait it. There's a human factor to it. Now the business changed. Okay, we said, okay, you know what? Our batch process is not good enough. We have to go into more real time because the persona is different. And when the business changed, persona changed, and the requirement changed. And then the same thing with our aggregate data to event data. That also changed. The amount of data coming in and the use case of the data all changed. So yeah, that's how we aligned our. It evolved. Redpanda evolved and moved with us. Now, in the recent things, we are moving towards AI and how do we use it for, models and other things, right? So when we are trying to do that, Redpanda is there to help. Alex talking about it. They are working on how do we use our own models on the path of the streaming, right? Same thing. And then now we worked recently. They are providing iceberg support, right? Iceberg support that changes to a next level. So it's evolving and solving our problems in multiple ways. So more than a vendor, we found a partner in Redpanda, and we could now grow together and also develop IPs together in a way, right? So we were innovative. We are doing some innovative stuff with that, and we are creating our own IP when Redpanda is creating their IP on evolving with us as well.
Yeah, that's a great. Thank you for sharing that. I could see the best way to articulate is through the sort of evolution, if you will. Yes. And it started with this performance paradigm and this underlying architecture of C-Star, but then the cost advantages came to be, and so now you could think differently about what you could support. You mentioned BYOC and the fact that from a sort of data privacy and PII perspective, it gave you, you needed that. Are there other attributes of BYOC that you've noticed unexpectedly in a streaming context over alternatives? I'm just curious of other things that you've recognized advantage-wise with BYOC.
So, a lot of advantages actually, right? So it reduced our learning curve as well, actually. So we, our team to bring up and getting up the learning curve got reduced dramatically because they got to bring it on cloud. So basically, right, the BYOC is like not only privacy, it helped us with the operational side also, right? In the operational side, the learning curve was so, fast, and we were able to get up to speed and go live much faster. When we are building our resources and training our resources on Redpanda and bringing them up to speed, we don't have to wait for it. We were able to bring it up to speed and do it. And our ecosystem, because it's pixel serving, the data is coming like every milliseconds, and we can't afford a downtime, right? And we can't. So with that kind of high availability ecosystem, where BYOC played a bigger role, right? Even the operation may look simple, but that's where I think the bigger on time it takes and bigger learning it happens, bigger problems arises, right? So we were able to get over that very quickly, very fast because of that, right? And then we were able to evolve with Redpanda as well. Redpanda was providing that they have been upgrading their cloud infrastructure and cloud system, and they were able to give all the best practice to us, and that helped us, right? Technically, of course, that keeping it in our VPC helped us move forward faster as well, because we don't have to go through any contract changes, or we don't have to go through any special privacy approvals and stuff, right? So we were compliant on the day one, right? So that also helped, actually, right? So yeah.
Fantastic, great. So I guess when we start talking about the future, you started getting into Iceberg and talking about how that kind of changes things. Maybe let's start there. What do you see as an exciting sort of future when it comes to this new, and maybe for those that are kind of sort of newish to what Iceberg is, help us understand like what it means to your architecture, what it means to the future of how you're planning your data infrastructure.
Okay, so let me see if I can explain how Iceberg is playing a role in Redpanda's ecosystem, right? So in the Redpanda, we get the data and publish and subscribes happens, and the whole shadow indexing was happening, and the whole thing is going to object store before, right? And in a proprietary format. So to access to that, you have to come through the subscription, come to the broker and get to the data. And still I have to load my broker or set of brokers to get to the data. So that means I have to take that off or build it bigger so that it can handle both real time and I'll take a load or on a load which you want to read from the historical data, right? Or come up with a different cluster to do it. Still, there has to be Redpanda clusters and do it. Whereas in this case, instead of proprietary format, now we are, it's stored in a format where it can be behind an Iceberg table format. So Iceberg table format gives us an access to that data directly using, any other solutions. Like from now, for me, I connect through the recently single store also announced Iceberg support, which makes it awesome for me. So I can read the data from the Iceberg and put it in single store, do all my analytics, and load it to my edge building to build our identity graph as well. So that become much more efficient, faster. Before it comes into file, and then we read it again, put it in a file, and then load it into a database, and then do the process. Like multiple steps has been removed. Okay. So recently I started measuring these on different terms as well, right? When I'm enjoying this, doing all this, I think that I mentioned before also. So I come from solar and energy and clean energy industry before, right? I'm working here. I was always thinking about how am I contributing, right? This is a good way to contribute in a way, right? The carbon footprint is coming down because I'm not using so much CPU, so much machines. Now I'm avoiding unwanted steps here, right? And so that becomes efficient. It's reducing, basically carbon footprint in a way because we removed a lot of huge steps in the process. So I'm not only looking at a money saving economical, and I thought I want a good feel like, hey, I'm doing something good for the economy, this one as well, right? So those are the things, it removes a few steps, and directly I can access the data. So this common format lets 2 or 3 different ecosystems to talk to each other, right? Easily. Before, it will be a lot of ETLs and ELTs needed, because you have to extract the data, you have to transform the data and put it in somewhere and then load it again to take it to a different ecosystem. Whereas now it is easier to do that with a common table format and reading it in a common way. So with our collaboration use cases, we started working with different data warehouses as well. We work with Snowflake, we work a lot with BigQuery, because our customer data are in BigQuery, customer data is in Snowflake. And our ecosystem is on single store. So, and then when the data comes in, we have started using iceberg table format as a common format to talk to each other, right? And then now Redpanda joined the group, which is really, really good for us. We have different nodes talking in the same language so that we can collaborate data easily and effectively. So that's what I believe in, actually, right? When you want to be an innovative company and you want to do innovative product, that means you have to work with cutting edge products and push changes in the industry as well, right? We have to work with the industry and drive changes there. I was talking to BigQuery about it. I was talking to Snowflake about it. Redpandas, single store. So we are everybody, the whole ecosystem of people, like whole architects like me, looking for some solutions. Now finally it's happening. So when we have to work through that such a way that industry is also evolving, right? That is when it becomes a more innovative and disruptive product and change for us too. So that gives us a huge edge with our competition, right?
Yeah. So I like how you connected this sort of table format, iceberg being an interoperable layer, but it also simplified your architecture. And that's an added bonus, I guess. And so when you talk about sort of benefits of the architectural approach, it's what I was hearing was like a bit of performance with cost savings sort of underneath it. How do you think about the people side of this equation? And do you see, the streaming architecture that you've taken on, did people and the resources required to keep the lights on and the performance management, did that factor into your design and planning as well? Or was this largely an infrastructure sort of centric approach?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question, because that changed how our developers started looking at problems and things as well, right? Because we were able to separate operations and development. Okay, we introduced a new team called production engineering team, and we were able to frame the team such a way they can handle the production and operations. Okay, so before it was a file-based system, it's a humongous ecosystem, and where engineers were doing a data engineering kind of job as well, and a substantial amount of their day went on on-call and supports as well, right? With the new architecture and new change, we were able to address that and separate that out as well, right? See, what happened, right? Over the years, I'm working with different engineering team. One thing I noticed is when an engineer starts working on-call and support and everything on the day, they become conservative. Okay, they become conservative in their coding, conservative in the changes, because they become really defensive, right? So there's a psychological aspect to the development things, actually, right? When you're supporting it last week and sitting in an on-call and troubleshooting a problem, next week when you started working on it, you'll be more cautious about even smaller change. You will write test cases after test cases, wrappers around wrappers, to make sure that it doesn't fall, right? So the psychological of innovation goes a little bit subdued, right? The thinking itself changes, right? So that's what we noticed, and we addressed that in the new architecture thinking now. New architecture thinking, hey, think solving problem, break the bigger problem into more smaller problem. Focus on solving it as a smaller domain problem, and then we can repeat that multiple times, as long as it's solve it right the best way. And then when it comes to scale, it is about deploying it in multiple times, in the same thing, and scaling it, right? The scale is like, how do you make it right for one domain, one set of things? When that works, we can scale it, and that scaling also will move it to production engineering, right? So the whole psychological part of the thinking itself is changing now. So then now they are more free, more ready for changes, more innovative now. That whole psychological shift is happening right now, right? Which is, you can't measure that. The productivity is super awesome, super fast, right? One of our engineers was saying, hey, Kannan, this is something I want to talk about, but I don't know how to quantify it. But she said, okay, hey, Kannan, I was troubleshooting this before, where the data come and the whole lineage and everything. It used to take like 6 to 7 hours before. And recently I had the same thing. I was looking at it. It took like around 14 minutes for me, right? I was like, what? Yeah, because the things are simple. Now I'm able to, troubleshoot it and track the whole thing much faster. So this efficiency improvement is so big, and it's harder for rest of the company to see. But how do we project it? I said, yeah, that's a good problem to have. Let's talk more about it. But you see that kind of changes happen when you simplify the architecture, when the footprint becomes smaller. I believe in the whole architectural footprint to be very, very small, but scaled to the maximum, like a 100 petabyte range. And so that's what we did, and that's playing a huge role in our architectural and developer thinking as well.
Yes, excellent. And I'm enjoying this conversation. I want to also encourage folks, if you all want to ask a question of Kannan, now is a good chance to throw those into the chat. We'll get to those in just a minute. Let's get into this next frontier. You've talked about building or having a vision for building the world's largest identity graph. What does that mean? Explain to this audience here about this vision.
So yeah, I think so one of the things is like we are thinking about one data collaboration platform, and here, right? So this is a few slides. I think we put it on earlier. So we know, as I told you before, actually our problems shifted from aggregate to event, and the growth started, and the persona changed. So whole scale and whole thinking has to change. We have to evolve. One of the bigger decisions we took, right? We are a company. We want to solve customer problems, right? We are not into software, product development, or we don't want to solve problems which is solved by the industry, right? So we want to harvest the industry's innovative technologies, like industry power, right? So that's why we reached out to you guys and SingleStore, those type of companies, to get your technology and your innovation, so that we can build on top of it, right? So harness the industry's innovation technology was one of the main principles we started, right? So that based on that, we started building our whole ecosystem here, right? So these are some of the slides. I think this. So okay, so this one, right? When you talk about, I'm going to touch this and touch this slide once before, and then I'll go to the identity graph here. So what happens, right? That one of the, as I was mentioning earlier, the whole problem when you look at it is like 100 petabyte of data, and such a huge problem. If you think it about scale of solving that as a one big problem, it's not simple. There's no lot of solutions available there to solve such a big problem easily, right? So what we did, right, we broke into domain. We call it domain partitioning. We've broken that into smaller problems, right? So we broke the data structure into say, hey, can it be partitioned by region, by use case, or by customer, or by set of audience, right? Can we? So that's what we went and attacked it. We broke it down into small domains, right? When the domain is small, and then say, hey, can we solve this for this domain? Okay, this is the domain partitioning. We decided one customer, one audience will be our domain. We defined the domain. We started solving for that domain. Once that is solved, we were able to give it to product engineering to go and deploy it for multiple customers and scale. So now when we're done with our development and done with the process, now the migration is going much more faster, much more efficient on our other side of things, actually. Right. So when we are doing all this, right, actually, so one of the main thinking was like the identity graph part. So we are one of the biggest graphs in the world, I think. So for all the identity and identity graph of the any human-centric data, right? So for that graph, that is basically, for example, it keeps updating every day, right? Based on the pixel serving data and the other data coming in and other data from our partners. And then we have to build that graph every day, rebuild them, and then make them available to consume. On that problem right now, when you're moving it from a data-centric approach, data center-based approach, now to cloud approach, we want to make that available in every cloud, every region, right? That is where bring your own cloud of Redpanda playing a bigger role now. And in the future vision part, we want to work closely with that so that we can dynamically load Redpanda and single store in different regions to provide this identity data, graph data everywhere, right? So, this one, right, actually, so this is more on the database side and things, but still, Redpanda was able to get the data faster. With the now with the Iceberg support, the data gets into the graph and GraphDB faster. So that makes it for us to build the data quicker and better, and then make it available for the data to consume much faster and efficient. And then the footprint of the data is become much more smaller and compressed now with all the things we've been doing with the new architectural thinking now. So that can be moved across regions, across things much more faster and efficient. And there also same, our, basically with the Iceberg kind of approach, we were able to external table and Iceberg kind of approaches, we were able to access the data in any cloud, any data warehouses more efficiently, effectively now. So, and we are super proud to be saying that we are the fastest and biggest graph, human-centric graph in the world, actually.
Yes, got it. Okay, amazing. The one area of the tech that I don't know if we've covered specifically is connectivity. As you showed your architecture, connectivity plays a very, very kind of key role, access to the endpoints. Anything that you could share there that you've learned, that the sort of like state of your architecture with respect to connecting to these source systems from a source and sort of destination perspective, that you would like to call out here? How are you approaching that? What do you use for connectivity and in your platform? Would be great to just get that perspective.
So yeah, I think I was wondering about that as well. So that's good you brought it up. So basically, right, with your new merger acquisition of that company, right? So that playing a bigger role now for us, because that's also was the discussions I was having with Alex and seeing what. So when you are talking about, what is our next problem? What are the bigger issues we're solving, right? That is the kind of conversation we have with Redpanda. Your engineers, your solution engineers come and sit with us and talk to us on, seeing what our next problem is, right? We spend time with your solution architects and even the CEO and coming and talking to our CTO and in detail discussing on what are the bigger pains, what are the bigger problems we're solving, right? One of the bigger problems we're solving is with the collaboration being our main primary thing. The collaboration means we are going to help multiple parties to collaborate, right? When the multiple parties are collaborating and they want to bring their own data to the collaboration space or our clean room space, that means the data going to be in multiple places. Like it can be in Snowflake, it can be in GCS, it can be in a data center somewhere, it can be in S3, anywhere, right? So we have the data sources can be in from multiple places, actually, right? And when we are delivering the data also, it can be in multiple places we have to deliver, different data types, different places, actually. It can be delivered as a file, delivered as a, data into Snowflake or BigQuery or Databricks. So we are in a place to solve all these connectivity problems. As I said before, I don't want to go and write connectors for everything, right? Because, I want to use industry's innovation and build on top of it. I want to build only IP that matters for my customer as a core business I'm trying to solve, not these products, right? So that is where I think you are, now your connectors are helping us a lot to re-architect and rethink using that to solve our problems. Actually, that's where we are actively working with your solution architects to work with us and help solve some of the problems where we get data from, for example, our one of the collaboration use cases, say we get data from Snowflake and process the identity part of it, and then there's another data from BigQuery, and whereas our core identity is in single store, how do we join them together, basically? So there's two records, two tables, and we have a link table in single store. So how do we bring them together, join them, and to effectively get the intersection data and post it on a different data warehouse or database, right? So in the collaboration, that's our primary thing, right? So for that, now we are trying to use working with you guys on solving that in a effective way.
Yeah, we've certainly gotten a lot of feedback from folks that, as you point out, the bigger challenge is connecting all these systems together. We do have new technology. We call it Redpanda Connect. It's very powerful, very flexible, it's fast, and I think sort of the customer advantage there is folks that are able to think, as you kind of pointed out, innovating on that sort of approach. I guess like the last question before we kind of wrap and give it to some folks who want to ask their own questions is related to, when it comes to like you mentioned this sort of change in the team in terms of the engineers and their ownership and building of the platform. How do you see this going down the future with AI? What's your sort of thinking around, the effects of AI? AI is a very broad spectrum, so we can kind of start there and say, when I bring up AI for LiveRamp, today, what does that mean, and how do you see AI playing a bigger role in your data architecture going forward?
Yeah, it's going to play a huge role, actually, right? So the AI part, I've been working on this from 2016. My previous startup was on the computer vision and AI, and I've been following up in this part a lot, and the RAG architecture. I talked about it in 2019. So I've been working in the AI side of it a lot, right? So I think it is a huge opportunity, and we'll all should be like proud and happy to be in this era of change, right? Whoever we are, developers or architects or engineers, is one of the best time to be in, to go, see through this change and innovate and develop and up ourselves, get ourselves up with the technical skill sets and everything, and go through this amazing journey, right? So it's an amazing journey. The whole industry is evolving, and I see this as a huge, opportunity for engineers to up and ride this wave, actually, right? So we went through different waves like .com and different waves, and always it was fun. I went through multiple waves right now, even an IoT wave. Now we are going through this wave. This is an amazing wave to journey and do that. But still, there is no shortcut for innovative thinking, entrepreneurial thought process, and problem solving, and looking for different ways to solve problems. Those are still with us, right? So we can do it effectively with all the tools we have now, right? Instead of waiting for months and years to get our idea implemented, now we can do it in hours and minutes with all the AIs and all the Gen AI and the tools we have. That's what I see with the opportunity. In the business side of things, even in LiveRamp, we are moving really fast, really quick on things. And very soon we'll be announcing some of the bigger changes on the path we are doing. So we are playing a bigger role in that as well, actually, right? So we are working towards that, and our lot of focus is on that. To how do we utilize that to the maximum to solve problems for our customers?
Yep, great, awesome. Well, I'm going to move now into some questions that have come through, and so for those that have some, you can still bring them in. So I'm going to start with this first one, which is around when you were evaluating Redpanda, what were some of the other solutions you considered, and what was your approach to identifying the Redpanda being the ideal solution? So just, I guess, what was your evaluation criteria, and who else did you consider during that process?
So yeah, I think I have a comparison I can share sometime later. Maybe we can share. So I went on as an architect, as an engineer, right? I went on objectively looking at what is the best thing, right? As I said before, for me it is about making a technology choice which will take us for the next 10 years, right? So it's not some tool I'm putting it in, I want to keep changing it, right? So I want to, because these are the few blocks. As a collaboration company, that I thought, hey, I need a data warehouse or database which can get the data, process it, and send out. And for that, I need a stream in, stream out, and connecting layer, right? And then orchestration layer. We went with temporal for the orchestration layer. So I thought these are three main blocks, right? Temporal for orchestration, and Redpanda for streaming in and streaming out, single store for my database. So I in my head, at least I was clear on three blocks I had to put together. So I took time and I did extensive research on solutions and on the what technology I'm going to choose, right? I went to an extent of evaluating, as I said before, right? I evaluated different companies, and I can go over the detail maybe later. But I thought Kafka ecosystem was really good, right? Because it has got a really proven ecosystem, right? The connectors and other tools, other stuff, developers getting in a resource to work on Kafka was a little easier than any other protocols, right? So Kafka is already proven technology, right? But I don't want to go through the Zookeeper and all sort of the whole architecture where the maintenance nightmare. I don't want to get into the maintenance nightmare, right? Okay, can I go with a cloud option like Confluent or something? I can't do that either because I want it to be in my VPC, right? So it always comes with features we want and what weight we give for the future, right? Or for that feature, right? So it depends. Right? For somebody doesn't care, they may go into cloud and put it on the cloud, right? For them, it may be a different problem, different comparison, right? So as a neutral architect guy, I don't say one is good, one is bad, right? I want to go objectively look at it, what is good for me, right? And then I started putting them objectively, right? And then it's a new company at the time, Redpanda. How do I bid on it? Like, how do I go to say to my executives, hey, I'm going to build the company's future on a small company, right? And I want to make sure that they are good, right? I did the load testing, as I said before. I generated huge load and tested the huge load and went through it. And I talked to Alex and said, hey, Alex, can I talk to your investors? And they were like, what? No, yeah, I want to understand where you are, where you are heading, how are you doing? Can I talk to your customer, right? At the time, the Snapchat, one of the companies that Snapchat acquired was using Redpanda, and I talked to them and found all the details. How is it happening? What kind of things happen? What kind of problems we face? Alex gave me an open hand to come and evaluate it fully, right? I went and detailed evaluated. Because when I'm putting my name and our architect's name on this and saying this is the product we're going to use for the future, I want to make sure I cover all the things there. So I went and did an extensive comparison and things for my use case. I'm happy to share if anybody knows.
Yeah, love it. Thank you for that. And I know we're coming up on time. There's a few other questions that are queued up here. We do have the advantage of responding to those folks, maybe async. I do want to give also folks a chance to wrap up here. So Corey, I think we're good on our Q&A here. So could you help us wrap up here?
Yeah, for sure. Mike, Kannan, this is a great discussion. I really appreciate it. Where can people go to learn more about Redpanda and the work you all are doing?
Yes, we have, obviously you can come to our website. There's lots of resources there. There's a particular resource that I highly recommend, brand new. This was a benchmark test that was performed by a team called the McKnight Group. They did some comparison tests against other alternatives out there, Confluent being one of those. And it's a very intensive, very detailed report for free. You all can take a look. So if you're evaluating your journey to Kafka and looking at alternatives and solutions out in the marketplace, highly recommend taking a look at this report here. It's a great resource. Obviously, there's a lot of other content on the Redpanda website. And if there's anything that we can help you with and maybe just shortcut the research journey, you can always connect with us via the website as well directly. So that's it.
Well, to everyone watching, we sure hope you found today's session valuable and informative. If you have any further questions or would like more information, please don't hesitate to reach out. They'd love to talk to you. Once again, thanks for joining Redpanda, LiveRamp, and vZone today, and best of luck on your journey to better scale and manage your data. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Thanks all.